Faith, brothers and sisters, is a journey, and every step brings us closer to God. I am permanent Deacon Victor Mesta, and together with my wife Ioli, we embarked on a journey of faith that transformed our lives. This channel was created to share the spiritual richness of sacred places. We will explore their history, the miracles that have taken place there, and the legacy of the saints that has left us. Through images, stories, and reflections, we will take you to some of the most inspiring shrines in the world. Join us on this journey of faith and discover it for yourself. Subscribe now and be part of this unique experience. St. Peter's Square is more than just an entrance to the Vatican. With its majestic columns, it welcomes us like the arms of the Church, inviting us to an encounter with faith and history. Here begins our journey. St. Peter's Square, one of the most iconic spaces in the world, was designed in the 17th century by Gian Lorenzo Bernini during the papacy of Pope Alexander VII. However, its history stretches far back to the very heart of Christianity. In the 4th century, Emperor Constantine commissioned the construction of a basilica over the site where, according to tradition, Saint Peter the Apostle and first Pope was buried. Over the centuries, this basilica was replaced by the current St. Peter's Basilica, the construction of which began during the Renaissance under the direction of great artists such as Bramante, Michelangelo, and Carlo Maderno. The square was conceived as the ideal space to frame this new basilica and welcome the faithful who came on pilgrimage to Rome. Before its design, the area was an irregular space surrounded by buildings lacking the majesty we now know. When Bernini was chosen to design the square in 1656, his goal was not only to create a functional space, but also to imbue it with deep spiritual meaning. Considered as two open arms, the square symbolizes the church's embrace of all believers. Bernini faced technical and spatial challenges, working with the restrictions of existing buildings and using his genius to transform the area into an architectural masterpiece. The Vatican is completely surrounded by a large wall. To enter St. Peter's Square, you must pass through one of the two entrance gates, and only then can you truly appreciate the grandeur of the square. The colonnades of St. Peter's Square, designed by the genius of Gian Lorenzo Bernini in the 17th century, are a monumental space that combines art, architecture, and spirituality. Its most striking feature is the imposing colonnades which flank the square like two open arms, welcoming all who arrive at this sacred place. The two curved wings, formed by four rows of Doric columns, symbolize the embrace of the Church towards humanity. This arrangement is not only symbolic but also practical, as it provides cool, shaded refuge for pilgrims who traveled from distant lands enduring the intense summer heat of Rome. The colonnades offered rest and relief to the faithful after their long journeys, making their arrival at this holy place even more welcoming. Walking among these 284 columns, the experience is almost like losing oneself in a forest of stone. Each column seems to have a life of its own, creating an atmosphere that blends solemnity and awe. In the background, dominating the view, stands the majestic St. Peter's Basilica with its grand dome that seems to touch the sky. The architecture of the square and the colonnades is designed to direct all eyes towards this spiritual center, uniting art and faith in a visual message of devotion. Above the columns, 140 statues of saints and martyrs rise looking down like a celestial crowd observing and accompanying the pilgrims. Each of these figures represents holiness and sacrifice, inspiring those who gaze upon them from the square. In this square, Gian Lorenzo Bernini designed something unique, the colonnade. From a specific point marked on the ground at the center of the colonnade, a visual phenomenon occurs that leaves those who experience it in awe. Although the colonnade is made up of four rows of columns, when you stand at this exact point, the rows align perfectly, creating the illusion of a single row. This effect is a brilliant example of Bernini's mastery of perspective and proportions in Baroque art. He designed this detail as a way to play with our perception of space, demonstrating how our vision can be manipulated with mathematical precision. It is a symbol of the harmony and order that faith seeks to convey. This plaque marks the spot where Saint John Paul II was shot on May 13, 1981, adorned with a papal emblem and the date in Roman numerals. It symbolizes both a physical and a spiritual remembrance. On May 13, 1981, Mehmet Aliakka shot the Pope during a general audience. This place became the witness to a tragic moment that marked the history of his pontificate. St. John Paul II attributed his survival to the intercession of Our Lady of Fatima. He often said, one hand fired the weapon, but another hand guided the bullet. This strengthened his devotion to the Virgin Mary even further. In 1983, the Pope visited the would be assassin in prison and forgave him, showing the world the power of love and reconciliation. The plaque serves as a symbol of faith, hope, and Marian devotion. One of the bullets was placed in the crown of Our Lady of Fatima as a token of gratitude. This is an image of the majestic apostolic palace in the Vatican, a place filled with history and spirituality. Among its many windows, the ones covered in black stand out as they belonged to the rooms where Saint John Paul II lived. He was a pope, deeply loved and remembered for his humility, courage, and closeness to the faithful. Keeping these windows covered in black honors his memory and preserves the connection with his legacy. We found Bernini's fountain, designed by the genius Gian Lorenzo Bernini in 1677. This fountain not only enhances the beauty of the square, but also serves a key function to balance the symmetry with its counterpart, the Fountain of Maderno, which is located on the opposite side. Maderno's fountain, located to the left of the central obelisk if you are facing St. Peter's Basilica, designed in 1614 by Carlo Maderno. It is the oldest of the two fountains. Its Renaissance design is simple and elegant. Bernini's fountain, situated on the right side of the obelisk, also facing the basilica, built in 1677 by Gian Lorenzo Bernini. It follows a Baroque design. Both fountains are equidistant from the obelisk, reinforcing the oval, oval shape of the square, which Bernini designed to represent the outstretched arms of the church, welcoming the faithful. At the very center of St. Peter's Square stands the imposing obelisk, a monument that connects history, faith, and art. This obelisk, dating from the time of the pharaohs, was brought to Rome by Emperor Caligula in the first century AD and originally placed in the Circus of Nero. Standing at 40 meters tall, including its base and the cross at its summit, this obelisk is one of the most prominent structures in St. Peter's Square, visible from far away and serving as a center point of orientation for visitors. In 1586, Pope Sixtus V ordered the obelisk to be moved to the center of the square as a symbol of Christianity's victory over paganism. More than 900 men under the direction of architect Domenico Fontana achieved this monumental feat. obelisk carries two Latin inscriptions that highlights its significance. On the south side of the obelisk states Sixtus V, Supreme Pontiff, moved the Vatican obelisk, which was dedicated to the impious worship of the gods of the nations, to the entrance of the apostles with great effort in the year 1586, the second year of his pontificate. On the north side of the obelisk states as an ornament of the living church and as a trophy of the cross of the Lord, trophy that triumphantly erected from the courtyard of the Caesars in the year 1586, the second year of his pontificate. Additionally, at the base, the obelisk carries the inscription Christ conquers, Christ reigns, Christ rules. And at its summit, a cross holds a relic of the true cross, making this monument a trophy of the Christian faith. We are now standing before the displaced angel monument, a magnificent work by Canadian artist Timothy Schmores. This monument pays tribute to migrants and refugees from all times and places, depicting them in a boat filled with faces from different cultures and eras, symbolizing the journey and the hardship faced by those in search of a home. Among the figures in the boat, an angel with wings stands out, serving as a reminder of the divine presence among those who suffer and seek refuge. This detail is inspired by a passage from the book of Hebrews. Do not forget to show hospitality, for by so doing some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. The artwork conveys a universal message of solidarity and welcome, echoing the continuous call from Pope Francis to open our hearts to others, especially the most vulnerable. Additionally, being created by a Canadian artist, this sculpture symbolically connects shared values across different cultures and geographies. Now, I want to talk about the winds and how they played a role in a historical event that forever marked Rome, the fire set by Emperor Nero in 64 AD. In this square, we can observe representations of four of the winds, which are just a small example of the many winds surrounding this place and forming part of the rich Mediterranean tradition. Each wind has its own origin and a specific effect. Shiroko or southeast. This is a hot, dry wind that comes from the Sahara Desert. It can fan flames and make a fire spread more quickly. Levante or east. This wind brings cooler air, but it can still have enough strength to fuel a fire in its path. Ostro Shiroko, or south southeast, a mix of hot and humid winds that raise temperatures, creating conditions that favor the spread of fire. Levante East or East, another variation of the wind from the east, with less intensity, but still significant in its effect on the climate. When Nero set the fire to rebuild the Rome according to his own desires, he did not consider the power of these winds. These winds, with their strength and direction, played a decisive role in causing the flames to get out of control and devastate much of the city. The consequences of this act were terrible, as Nero, in his desperation, blamed the Christians, leading to one of the cruelest persecution in history. St. Peter's Square welcomes us with its grandeur and symbolism, preparing us for something even deeper. Behind its imposing doors awaits St. Peter's Basilica to the heart of the Catholic faith. Join us in the next chapter to discover its majesty and spiritual significance.